I'm going to start with a story. So this is it's like one of those like Aesop's fables, I think, although it might actually have come from a real place. And if it has, someone please comment and let me know. But it's about a shark, and it's a shark and it's swimming around this big tank, and there's fish everywhere, and it's having the time of its life swimming around and eating all of these fish. And then the researchers put in this block of plexiglass in the center of the tank. It's a huge tank. And the shark tries to get to the fish, and every time it just bangs into this plexiglass. So it's like, okay, dust itself off, like bang into the glass. And it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going, and eventually it's so tired and it's so broken down and it's bruised and bloody and just thinks that they just cannot go on, and it stops. And when it stops, they remove the glass. And the fish swim around, but the shark, it doesn't go after them because he's learned that it hurts, because he's learned that it doesn't work, that there isn't any point in doing that. Now, can you recognize yourself? Maybe now, maybe in the past. Have you tried so many times and just been knocked back and knocked back and knocked back until you've just stopped? Because if you have, then I feel fear and I get it, and I've been there many times in my life as well. But this video is really a message to you that it's all about keeping on going. And the reason why is because if you stop in that moment when you're bleeding and bloody and on the floor and exhausted and feeling like there's no point in continuing, then that is all your life will be. That is what you're left with. If you get up, if you try again, if you learn from what hasn't worked before, if you seek a new opportunity, if you are brave enough to put yourself out there again, just like in the instance that we've just spoken about with the shark, you never know if that could be the time when you could just bang, move, get the fish, get that outcome, get that person, have that outcome at work, get that investment in your business, find that person that you've been longing for, build the relationship, build the friendships, build the community, build the body that you've been dreaming of, that you've been yearning for. But if you don't keep going, then you never will get the opportunity to do that. So how do you keep going? So Tony Robbins often talks about when we have a big enough why, we can withstand any how. And I love that. Like, I absolutely love that, because it comes to that thing of being driven by something usually bigger than ourselves. You know, it's we want to make a valuable contribution to others, or, you know, whether that's our family or the people we work with, our community, or, you know, we reach a point where it's like, this is it now for me. You know, like with me and stopping smoking and drinking, it's like, this is it now for me. Like, I'm done having these things holding me back in my life. Or it might be for you when you decided to lose a ton of weight, because you just hit that point where you're like, no more. I want my life, and this is stopping me, and so this is the choice that I'm making. So we can hit those points, we can get that really big why. You know, it might be that we want to be healthy for our children when we're older. It might be that we want to live freely and go and adventure out in the world, that we want to have that deep love, whatever it is, that big why. But what I also think is very interesting to understand about that why is the neurochemistry that we need to be able to sustain that, but also having an image of what the outcome will be in our mind of what we actually want to achieve. And I'm going to break those down now. So firstly, the neurochemicals that we're playing with when we go after the why. So really interestingly, common knowledge sees dopamine as a reward neurotransmitter, so a reward chemical, and it is absolutely instrumental and key in the reward circuitry in the brain. But what it is not is the reward itself. What it does is it drives us towards the reward. So think dopamine, think pursuit. And so if you're one of those people who goes after the thing, and when you get the thing, you feel pretty empty, that's because you've run out of your little dopamine run, right? Because you've been like chasing the dopamine, you're going after the thing, and then bang, you get to the end of it. Where's the dopamine gone? Ah, shit, right? On the other side of that, what we have is we have a sense of contentment, of fulfillment, of love, of connection, of being part of something more, part of something bigger. And that is driven by very different neurochemicals. So that's driven by serotonin and oxytocin. They're really the neurotransmitters of having. So dopamine is of wanting or pursuing, and serotonin and oxytocin specifically in relation to others. So that's why it's called the cuddle hormone and the love hormone. That's in relation to what we have, the people that we have, the connection that we feel to others. So what we want to do is, when we're thinking about our why, we want to be bringing those two elements together. So we want to be able to keep moving forwards and pursue fit. So go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So absolutely need to be like driving through by having that why, having that point that we're wanting to go after, like working so hard on the task on the way to that dopamine. But we also need to have a clear image of what that will feel like, what that will look like, because otherwise how will we know when we've got there? And how will we know that we are we're successful? How will we know that we've achieved that thing that we're longing? And how will we know in situations that don't reflect that actually we need to do something differently? Now, I'm going to speak very vulnerably now. So I was in a situation this week with another person, and I'd had this image in my head of what was right for me and what I wanted and needed in my life. And when I was sat across from this other person, I realized that it was so far from that image of what I'd been seeking, what I need, that it became a very easy choice to walk away from that situation. Now, I've not had that before because I haven't had that point of comparison before. I've just evolved within the situation itself and had some loose idea of what I wanted and just been pursuing after what I thought I wanted without that clear image. And that's why it's so important to have the clear image of what we want as well. And my clear image was bound in serotonin and oxytocin. It was bound in connection. It was bound in love. It was bound in contentment and fulfillment. And so that's what I invite you to do. So whether it's how it will feel when you get that body, and how it will feel when you walk out on the beach or climb that mountain, how it will feel when you get that investment in your business, or you get that incredible new career opportunity, whether it's within work or a new job that you've been longing for, like how that will feel in that moment and what you will be able to do as a result of that, the people that you will be able to connect with, and how it will feel to relate that information to the people in your life and really play that out. And so when we do this, we're not just relying on the chase, the pursuit. We also have a clear idea of what we're going towards. So we're really anchoring the why. And then finally, one of the things that I've really reflected on lately, and I wonder if this is true for you too, is how you continue, not just when it's the failure to failure, but when, a bit like the shark in the tank, but you know, when you actually are left with no signs that what you are going after, what you want, what you long for in your life is actually going to emerge for you, is actually available to you. How do you persevere on then? And this is really interesting. So we can have times in our life, you will have times in your life where it's like a, you know, like a bleak winter. You know, you look out at that field and there's nothing growing. And you can assess in that moment, you're taking that snapshot of that moment, that this is never going to be true for me. And when we do this, we can give up. And that's because we're placing what is possible for us on the circumstances that we are currently faced with. My very, very dearest friend Charlotte actually said this to me when I was going through a tough time recently. She said, you cannot judge your future or your potential or your capability or any of those things on what your current reality is. And that's such an incredible insight, because we can look out on that bleak field, on that barren field, and we can say, there's nothing there for me. However, we can't see what's growing under the surface. And so in those moments, it is our duty to ourselves to plant seeds. I was sharing a message with a friend yesterday who's going through a tough time right now, and one of the things that I communicated to her was, it's about what we do when it's dark that matters when it's light. So it's about how we plant those seeds. It's what we invest in each day, even if it's just one thing that's going to make things 1% better, that when then the sun comes out, you know, the spring is here, that those beautiful investments, those seeds that we've planted, start to grow. So even when we're in the winter and we can't see, you know, we've been knocked back and knocked back and knocked back and knocked back, and we're bleeding and bloody and tired, and we can't see any hope that that beautiful vision, that thing that we want so much to have in our lives, we see no evidence of that. Well, that is our call to begin planting those seeds, whatever they might be. So if it's your body, how do you then start to lay that foundation? Is it about an exercise routine that you start doing, even if you start with just, you know, 10 minutes a day? Is it that you arrange more opportunities at work, you apply for more things, you ask for feedback? Is it that you put yourself out there in a relationship, you exercise, you eat healthily, you get your sleep, you hit those baselines, because you're planting the seeds to have that physical health, to have that mental health for when things do start to flourish, for when they do start to grow. And so doing these three things, so thinking about the shark in the tank, and making sure that we don't give up, because in that moment when we've given up, that could be the very moment when we have our breakthrough. By actually not just focusing on the pursuit of the things that we want, but getting a clear idea of what that is, so we can have that as a point of comparison and a beacon to move towards, to take us away from situations that don't serve us and draw us towards them. And so that serves as our reference point when we're in the darkness. That's our light, that's our beacon when we're in the darkness, when the field is bleak, when there's nothing growing. And then how we, in that moment, plant those seeds in the dark that will flourish in the light. All right, guys, I'm going to pop another video here or here, I never think which way around it is, which will really help you to continue on in the face of failures, and will help to explain why and how, from a scientific perspective, that's so important, tapping into things like growth mindset and fixed mindset. And I will see you in the next one.